How Donald Trump's close friendship with glam conspiracist Laura Loomer, 31, is threatening to blow up his presidential run, as insiders say his campaign managers don't care if he wins or loses.
I would like to just congratulate whoever at the Daily Mail wrote this headline, because glam conspiracist is really, that is a great descriptor, you know.
That's her new
I think
Twitter
it's
bio.
wonderful.
She's gotta love that.
If I were Laura Loomer, I would put glam conspiracist on everything from now on. I'd get a shirt.
Look at this. It's funny. The former president was asked why Laura Loomer, comma, who once claimed 9/11 was an inside job, comma, when? That's so stupid. Imagine being like 18 and then you're on the internet and you type it, and then now you're 31, you're like, I was just some dumb kid typing stupid things on the internet, and they're like, but you did say it.
Well, that's what's funny about Kamala Harris is how she talks about how her values haven't changed, even though every single one of her positions has changed. It wasn't from when she was a kid. It was literally 5 years ago. She was in her 50s.
He said, Laura is a supporter. She has very strong opinions. She's a free spirit. I can't tell Laura what to do, he replied. She flew on the plane with him to the debate. She's not a campaign staffer. She's not part of the campaign. She was on this trip, but by no means is she part of the campaign in the official capacity, the campaign source told the Mail. So you can tell it's a slow news day when they're literally running front page headline stories because Laura Loomer hung out with Donald Trump. I do like the word conspiracist, though, to tack on to what Libby was saying. Conspiracist.
Put that on a business card.
Yeah, it sounds like she crafts them. You know, like she's sitting there like folding paper and like drawing lines and making the conspiracies for other people.
It's her trade.
Like, you ever ask, like, where do conspiracy theories come from?
Laura Loomer.
The conspiracists.
Conspiracist.
But I will say this. I believe that the world has only yet begun to see the capabilities of Laura Loomer in generating press.
Yeah, she's incredibly effective.
When she's 50, she's going to be at the front page of every story all the time, 24/7. So she chooses, because she has consistently proven over the past 8 years that when she wants to be the story, she does it.
You were saying
that's
that
a talent.
She's more effective than members of Congress. You know, and you see people coming out and they're attacking her. Like Marjorie Taylor Greene went crazy, and that she kind of started this. Like Marjorie Taylor Greene, and then you saw like Lady G, Lindsey Graham, and like all these literally all these like senators.
Did Lindsey Graham?
Lady G was very. I mean, he's just mad because he has an identity crisis. With himself, with the hookers at the
male
RNC
hookers.
in 2016, but male hookers, yes. But Laura Loomer, I think they're just jealous. They're bitter. It's always like this snake pit, like with around the Trump orbit. Everyone's trying to get in. Everyone's trying to work their angle, and they don't like it that Laura's been extremely effective online and that she's been able to get President Trump's ear, and she's, in there flying on the plane. And they saw that and they spazzed out. And I think it's just people in Congress or people who want to be close who are planting these stories about her.
Yep.
And they're just trying to
helping
make it
her.
a headline. They're actually, and they're also hurting Trump, because they should be. It's so selfish when they go out and talk about it. Every single Republican right now should be talking about Trump winning. And this whole thing about the campaign managers not caring. It's like Trump has never been better in these swing state polls. Again, New Jersey, my state, he's within 3 points. He's within a couple points in Virginia, Minnesota, New Hampshire. It's like he's polling better in swing states than he ever has. So when everyone's like, oh, the campaign managers, well, what exactly are they doing that isn't good? I'm wondering what's so bad about right now where he stands in the race. I think Trump's in great shape.
Do you think that the goal is to create internal chaos? I mean, if there already is kind of a knives out environment, people are worried maybe about where this could lead them. If they want to be in the administration, they don't want to give up their ties. Is it sort of media pressure to make it seem like there needs to be some sort of staffing switch up just to cause chaos in the campaign?
Yeah, I think people want themselves and their people to be like calling the shots. So like they throw other people under the bus, and they see Laura as somebody who's coming in totally from left field, like getting onto the plane, getting Trump's ear, and then everyone just like kind of bugs out about it, and to Tim's point, they just like, they brand her these things and they go crazy and they gang up on her because of how effective she is.
Did you feel like you were kind of an outsider when you were planning the Wildwood rally?
Well, they didn't want me to speak. So actually what happened was the local GOP people were trying to get me out of speaking. So this is actually the true story. I wanted to speak at the rally. Obviously the GOP people didn't want me to speak at the rally. And what happened was they told Trump these things about me. Long story short, told the Trump campaign that myself and Roger Stone responded to those allegations. Trump campaign looked at what was said and looked at the facts on both sides and said, wow, these people lied about Mike Crispi. And he's going to speak at the rally. And that actually affirmed my position to do that. So yeah, I mean, I've been the victim of it where like, people don't want you to gain an edge of influence. They tried to kick me out as an RNC delegate. Same thing. Mike Crispi's doing this or Mike Crispi's doing that. And these grown men will turn into, petty high schoolers and they'll plant stories or say things and they just try to get it into the funnel in the chaos and just try to be, okay, he's blacklisted now. So they try to do that all the time. I mean, that's what's happening right now in any campaign around the country, happens in the White House, Democrat, Republican. And as Trump said, the only difference with him and the Democrats is that Kamala doesn't fire the people who are fighting each other and screwing up.
Would we agree, though? I do think the Republican Party is incredibly fractured, though. You don't think so?
In what capacity?
Well, just the fact that a lot of people hate Donald Trump, and then you see a lot of the DeSantis people are still bashing Trump. I do think it is fractured.
And a lot of people right now are, I think, in the party chomping at the bit that, if they steal the election and Trump is not successful, that they will have knives out for all the people like, me and others who are like legitimately always been in Trump's camp since day one, like the RNC types who they didn't even care about the results of the election. They just care about, keeping the paycheck flowing, and they're like liking Trump now. There's a lot of those people.
I don't like either party. I don't like the parties.
Yeah.
I just want to see proper policy and things that actually make sense. And right now, the Republicans have it. They have a lot of problems, but they have the more correct side of things.
Well, the left is fractured too with all the Palestine.
Right, but they're nuts.
Yeah.
Like the DEI stuff. I mean, what they're proposing is just illogical nonsense. And so the Republicans are offering up something functional.
I think
Like,
the
okay.
Republicans are prepared to be more fractured just by the nature of the political philosophy. Like, I think Republicans are much more open to libertarians, right? Or they're much more open to, the Tea Party movement didn't like break the party. It just kind of shows that there is a different movement. And even the MAGA movement, there is fighting. On the other hand, ultimately, there's an expectation that the Republican Party is constantly kind of going over its values and aware of these influences. Whereas I feel like my impression of the Democratic Party is that their expectation for their voters is that no matter what, they comply and fall in line. They don't have to court voters the way that Republicans kind of always do because there are different perspectives within the party. They expect compliance. And that's why the Israel-Palestine issue is something they're really struggling to get over because they haven't had to compromise within themselves. They are expecting fear and compliance, and it's not really working the way they would have wanted it to this time. Like when Trump went to the LNC, the Libertarian National Convention, he was like, I'm going to put a libertarian in my cabinet. But Kamala vowed to she said she would consider putting a Republican in. So it's not even a full promise. And she's talking about the other major political party. She could have said, I would entertain putting a member of the Libertarian or the Green Party in, right? Mm-hmm. She could have appealed to independents.
Shout out Jill Stein.
Instead, the Democrats view it as us versus Republicans. And I think Republicans have a different view of kind of just the nature of politics in America. Maybe that's just my take, but...
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think I didn't realize how fractured the left is until Ilhan Omar still won, even though AIPAC spent all that money against her. So it kind of shows me like, oh man, maybe there is, something to this. Maybe the, Palestine stuff will actually change the election. And I hope it does. I hope people lose support for Kamala. But,
and there are environmentalists that are really mad at both the Joe Biden administration and in that sense, the
environmentalists are why? Because they stopped fracking. I thought they were pretty good for the environment.
I can't remember what it was today, but he just repealed a bunch of restrictions that environmentalists were mad about. I mean, they staged the whole summer of heat protests this whole year. And, if you take corporate money, if corporate monies are pro whatever oil and gas, you're likely to upset environmentalists. I think that they're, again, like, Democrats present a facade of like we're all in this together because they ignore fracturing the parties, and it's just gotten so deep they can't. Republicans are used to fighting amongst each other, whether that's good or bad.
Probably bad,
but you're more prepared for it, right? Democrats aren't recovering from the fighting with them.
I mean, I gotta say though, with Trump, we often say that the Republicans are the Washington Generals to the Democrats, Harlem Globetrotters, but it kind of feels inverted right now with Democrats. They're the B team, They've got no strong, charismatic lineup.
But then after Trump, who does the Conservative Party have? Who do Republicans have? With DeSantis and his high heel shoes?
Vivek.
Yeah, but listen, Vivek says all the right stuff, but does he have any experience? You really think he's going to be that great?
Did Trump?
No, but Donald Trump was a billionaire. Donald Trump was the most famous guy on earth before he became president. He's much different than Vivek.
More famous, but Vivek is also an industrialist, 500 million, fine. He's not a billionaire. He's halfway there.
Yeah, but Trump had swag. Vivek does not have the swag.
That's true.
I mean,
do you think Vivek's
a little bit sooty,
Do you think Vivek would take the Senate seat that Vance would have to?
That'd be
give
great.
up?
Yeah.
I mean, that would be good.
but-
I like Vivek. I'm just saying he's
to
not
your
Donald
to your-
Trump.
yeah,
Let's
to your
just be
point-
real.
To
He's
your
not.
point, Alex, is that like who is after Trump? If Republicans aren't
maybe it's
successful.
Alex.
Yeah,
I think
right.
maybe it could be Alex.
No.
Yeah.
I think that is the big question because Democrats really are seeing this election as a referendum on MAGA and that entire movement itself. So you've had a lot of them come out and say that if Trump loses, that's the end of MAGA.
It is.
And they say that there's nobody who comes after Trump. There's no heir apparent at all.
Trump didn't start it. Trump is a symptom of it.
I agree with
whatever
that,
it is.
Do you think
100%.
MAGA lives on if he
Yeah,
loses?
look at, I mean, there have been movements like this for decades at this point. It started with Ross Perot.
This is
and then
the-
we had the Tea Party, and now we have MAGA, and there's going to continue to be a populist movement in this country
This is
until they put us all in the gulags.
This is a big mistake the Democrats keep making when they think that defeating Trump ends this.
True.
And it's not because Trump, listen, when Trump's own rally boos him, they're like, it's a Trump cult. And then Trump's at a rally and he's like, we did Operation Warp Speed. And they go, boo. And he's like, well, okay, whatever. It's not a cult. It's just that Trump is a symptom of the anger felt by many Americans who were, I feel like it really came from Occupy. I believe Occupy led directly into Donald Trump.
I think that makes
The media
sense.
doesn't want to tell you the truth. Occupy was not initially far left crackpot nonsense. And I've told Steve Bannon this. If only he came down in the early days and bullhorned, it would have been a bipartisan populist movement. But because the right just assumed, and I think Fox News sold him out, the narrative was that Occupy was far left. Not in the beginning. The far left came and took it over very quickly. But people were angry at the Obama administration they were angry at the Great Recession, followed by the big bank bailouts.
Those were infuriating.
And then this is Obama. This is 2011. This is Obama. And the Occupy movement's angry. Obama ends up getting reelected because Occupy's, I don't think, a big enough movement necessarily to stop, say, the Democratic machine. But probably a large component of why Obama actually ends up winning another term is because the right did not embrace the populist anger that had festered up all across the country. They mocked it and ridiculed it.
Well, this is a tough question. Would it have been better if Mitt Romney won, knowing what we know about Mitt now?
No, but my point is this. After Obama backstabs everybody, so it's Occupy Wall Street. People are furious. I remember Sean Hannity was ragging on Occupy, and everyone on the right, Breitbart, was screaming at these people. And I'm like, well, you lost it. There was populist outrage. There were people of all different backgrounds, and the right gave it up. Whatever, fine by me. And then, so Obama gets elected again. And then everyone's just like, that's it, I'm done. 9 million people who voted for Obama switched to Trump in the next election, saying no more, none of this. So it's not that the sentiment of Occupy is universal, but enough people who felt that anger wanted Donald Trump. Why? Michael Moore said it best. He was a human Molotov cocktail being thrown into the machine, the greatest FU in the history of mankind.
So yeah, the movement lives on. But, I think the point you're making, Alex, is that somebody in the Trump figure, like who takes it over and who's the
carries the
leader of
torch,
it. I mean, you'll have 10 people try to be like the Trump figure, but no one will ever be like Trump, right? So in 2028, no matter what happens, 10 people are going to try to do that. If Trump wins, JD Vance will try to do it. I don't think he's got it. Vivek, we like Vivek.
Nikki Haley, dude.
Nikki Haley's going to jump in and say, we're done with this. You'll have, so many people who are going to jump in, but nobody's going to be like Trump. And it's like the Democrat Party right now. The Democrat Party doesn't have a figure. Kamala's just a puppet. And the reason they don't fight on the Democrat Party, I think, is because the difference between the Republican Party and the Democrat Party is like, top down, controlled by a much smaller group of people who then cascade everything out. Republicans obviously have a lot of, fragmented fractures and people of influence, and
They
stuff like
reflect
that.
the populist
yeah,
nature of the
reflect,
party.
yeah. When Democrats, like, it's militaristic.
Yeah, I think
top down.
I think one of the challenges is that we have to move away from the mentality of who is the next Trump. Like, no one is going to be Donald Trump. There couldn't be, right? But who represents the values and goals of the movement best? And I think there are a number of candidates that could do that. And I'm actually...
What do you like?
Yeah, who? Name one.
I mean, I think... Again, if we're going down to the populist movement, like I can't say who's going to emerge as like the best federal leader, but I do think JD Vance is interesting. I think that
Do you like JD Vance that much? Because speaking of swag, I don't think he has that much swag. Have you seen some of these?
He's vanilla yogurt.
He is, and Mike.
It's not
Pence,
it's not a bad thing. It's like I enjoy it, but he's not razzle dazzle with sprinkles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like Andrew Bailey out of Missouri. I think he's doing really interesting things.
He's doing great.
Yeah, I mean, I think that this is like this would be sort of the blessing of 4 more years of Trump, which is that there are people who are in the early stages of their career who could move into interesting positions.
I
think that's like one of the hard things about
If
trying to
people
be
will
like,
take the job. I mean, a lot of
I
people
don't
wanna take
see
those jobs.
JD Vance or Bailey as look, what Trump is a rock star. JD Vance will never be Donald Trump.
No.
He's a good politician. He's a good speaker, and I don't mean to insult him by saying vanilla yogurt. I'm saying he's a very ordinary in the political sense.
universally appealing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, what I mean to say is not like he does really well. He's great at what he is and what he represents, and that's probably why Trump chose him. He's a stabilizing force of normalcy, but people want celebrity.
I agree. That's
They're-
why
the
Rock-
Democrats have nothing. Republicans have like morsels. After Donald Trump, who has the pizzazz? I don't know.
See, I think that just emerges over the next 4 years. Like I said, if you're looking for an exact replica of Donald Trump, it'll never happen. But 4 years is a long time. I think that you will see personalities developing. And in contrast with the Democrat bench, they are divided over major issues. And on top of that, you know, they're like they tout out like Max Frost, the congressman from Florida. He's really young. Okay, cool. You're trying to argue that you guys have the youth movement. You have the youngest person in Congress. AOC has been around for a while, and I think she could probably get reelected to her district, but she'll never have national appeal.
You don't think so? I think that she's the third most popular politician behind Trump and Biden. Probably.
I don't think she could win the Electoral College. I mean, I think people like her in the way that
How would she campaign in Iowa?
I
don't know. People say it's so crazy, but I do think that
that's because you feel a certain
I
level
do.
of
Yeah,
affection
there's
for
a little
her.
more.
than the
There's
rest
a
of
little
the
more
people.
to it.
there is a little a deeper connection, but I honestly think that AOC has a very big chance of kind of taking over the party. Maybe I'm naive when I say that, but I do think that she's popular. I think that even though she's crazy, I actually respect her more than some conservatives because I do believe that she believes what she says, and she's not as two-faced as some people. Like even
She
though
is
she's
consistent.
She
She's
voted.
consistent.
She voted against the trading thing. She wanted the members of Congress not to be able to trade stocks.
Yeah.
AOC was championing that. That's pretty.
I do think
commendable.
I think she's more popular than Kamala Harris, believe it or not. But
Oh,
I mean,
well, I think that's
100%
easy.
more
That's obvious.
popular
yeah.
than,
So
than Kamala Harris. She's 100% more popular.
Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.